What's up, everybody? This is Joey C from the Brutally Sober podcast, coming at you with my buddy Bobby C. This is the Alcoholics Anonymous Deprogramming podcast. We took last week off. We had a couple, personal commitments we had to do,
Right.
and now we're back. I'm in Jersey. Bobby's in Cali. I still haven't been to a meeting in over a year, and I'm doing pretty damn good. It's just a matter of time till I get back, though. Anyway, me and Bobby C are going to be talking about chapter 3 in the big book called More About Alcoholism. But before we start talking about that, I just want to remind you guys to subscribe to this YouTube channel, Alcoholics Anonymous Deprogramming Podcast YouTube channel. And follow me on Instagram, Brutsob, and Twitter at Brutsob. And follow Bobby C on My Truth About AA on Twitter and his Facebook page. What's your Facebook page called, Bobby C?
It's anonymous addiction and my truth about AA as Bobby C sees it. Private group. It's a private group. Or you can friend me at Bobby C. Sorello. Either way.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff on that page. There's a lot of different people from all over, and they have different backgrounds. Some of them looks like they tried out AA, and sometimes looks like they just didn't want to have anything to do with it. But it's a nice little community you got over there of interactions and not a lot of bullshit going on. And everyone seems to like have different opinions and listen to each other, and it's pretty cool over there. So if you guys are on Facebook, check it out. It's got some cool information on there. And Bobby's always posting some stuff that you probably never seen before that just makes you think and look into makes you want to look into stuff and do research on your own. So it's pretty cool. I like it. I'm anytime I go on Facebook, I check it out and see what his latest posts are about because it's always interesting. So chapter 3 in the big book, more about alcoholism. I read it twice this past week, and then I just attempted to read it again before this podcast to do a little cramming um, homework. And about 3 paragraphs in, I fell asleep on my front porch. Hey, you know what happens? I'm 40 years old. What am I going to do? I dozed off for about a half an hour. But what I got from it is that you there's no there's no way around the fact that you're an alcoholic. From what this chapter from what I got from this chapter is like you could keep trying and trying and trying again to drink like a normal person, but it ain't gonna happen. And I can relate to that because I have tried to drink successfully and it didn't work out. I actually personally didn't try to drink like a normal person. I tried to drink alcoholically and just at the same time manage my relationships and manage my life. And it didn't work. I had no desire to drink normally. I just had a desire to drink as much as I wanted and not have any consequences. So that didn't work out for me as much as I tried. And it talks about I don't know, it has like 4 or 5 different stories of guys that um, thought that they could drink again and couldn't. Has that famous milk and whiskey story in it, and it has that story about this guy who starts drinking and it's screwing up his career and his life and stuff like that, and then he stops drinking for like 25 years. Which I don't know, Bobby. You could tell me. I think that story is bullshit. I don't even know if it ever happened. I think they probably just threw it in there as some kind of I don't know, example or whatever. But the guy stops drinking for 25 years because it's interfering with his job. Then he picks back up again and he's dead in like 4 months. But after 25 years, he just stops drinking on his own, like nothing. I don't buy it. Maybe that happened, but I don't know. I think they just threw in a little fable in there. But yeah, I what I took from the chapter is that you can think you're not an alcoholic, but you know you're an alcoholic, and it pretty much ain't going to change. And you can keep trying to, you can keep trying and trying to drink like a normal person or drink again, but sooner or later shit's going to hit the fan, and you're going to be right back where you were. And I can't disagree with that. But I'm going to tell you this: I think that guy that stopped drinking for 20 years, 25 years, I'm not buying that story. I think it's bullshit. What do you think?
About that story. Uh,
Yeah.
more, uh, the reason why we're doing this podcast, is the programming podcast, is to, for somebody that goes back to a meeting, they come out of a rehab, they're going to get sent. First of all, here they go. They stop drinking. So here they go. They quit drinking. They go into a rehab to stop drinking when they already stopped drinking. Okay. So they're not drinking. They're in a rehab for 30 days or 60 days or 90 days. They're not drinking. Now they're sent to Alcoholics Anonymous, and Alcoholics Anonymous is going to teach them not to drink, but they're not drinking. Okay. So they're sending these people, they already quit. They already recovered. They stopped drinking. So it's possible to stop drinking. No, I buy the story, Joe, because it screws the whole thing up. Okay. I believe the guy stopped for 25 years. I believe, because how in the hell did I stop for 36 years, 37 years? Okay. So what's the difference between me or that guy? The difference is that I still have a desire to not drink. He didn't. He actually told himself and others that when he reaches a certain point in his life, when he retired at 55, he's going to start drinking again. So he made a decision to drink. So there's really no secret about that, because that's how the whole thing works. And it talks about a desire, and here's a desire. I mean, Joey, look, if you wanted to drink right now, you'd be drinking. If you wanted to drink more than you didn't want to drink, you'd be drinking. So would I. I could drink anytime I want, if I want to, if I have a desire to. But the reason why I'm going over this more about alcoholism, because it's read. There's pamphlets, at every meeting throughout the world. There's thousands and thousands of meetings. This is read at every meeting. The promises is read. How it works is read. The preamble, more about alcoholism, a vision for you. And Joey and I are going over all these different types of readings that are discussed. They're not discussed, they're just read. Okay. And we absorb this. In this chapter, the chapter is not what we read the whole thing. It's only like it's 2 pages that we read, more about alcoholism. And it talks about, most of us have been unwilling to admit we were real alcoholics. Real versus unreal, I don't know. Real alcoholic versus alcoholic, what does that even mean? First of all, alcoholic, IC, just means pertaining to. Look it up in the dictionary, or look up the prefixes of ick. It just means of, pertaining to alcohol. That's all alcoholic means, pertaining to. Alcoholism is just a state of, it's a condition. Ism, look up ism, what isms are. Ism is actually a movement, it's a distinctive practice or a system or a philosophy. So alcoholism is like a philosophy, a movement, really. It's kind of like, Alcoholics Anonymous is the new temperate movement that I believe Rockefeller took over. Okay, because he was into the temperance movement real big, and I believe that he took this over and created his own temperance movement. Now, in this chapter, now the chapter goes on. The chapter's like, I don't know, 10 pages or whatever. It goes on. It mentions the word alcohol or alcoholism probably about 40 times. And why do you have to say the word so much? Repetition is the mother of brainwashing, or it's the mother of skill. Okay, either one. You could take it either way. But they mention alcoholic and alcoholism over and over and over again. Okay. You know, I look back just for the hell of it. I look back because I don't believe, first of all, it says right here, it says, we do not, right on page, one of the next page, 3031, we do not like to pronounce any individual as alcoholic, but we can quickly diagnose yourself. But you can quickly diagnose yourself. That's on page 31 at the bottom. If I can quickly diagnose myself, I can quickly undiagnose myself. I'm not alcohol. I don't have a disease of alcoholism. I don't like the word alcoholism. I don't like the word alcohol. And I sure don't like the word that I'm diseased. Because along with it in this page, it talks about insanity over and over again. It talks about insane. It says it like on this page 37, it says insanity 1, 2, 3, 4 times. The insane idea, some insanely, insanity, insanely spree, talks about I'm insane. I'll tell you the truth, I do believe that, you know, because Benjamin Rush, we talked about this last podcast, Benjamin Rush, he was like real big in the temperance movement. This word, 100 years, okay, the word alcoholic goes back about 200 years, over 200. And Benjamin Rush, see, this here, it shows a fly, a skull on a fly, and up top it says disease, okay? What disease meant back then and what they're labeling a disease today is completely different. Benjamin Rush wrote all kinds of papers about the temperance of alcohol. He wrote all kinds of different things. He started a moral and physical thermometer meeting, okay, where it actually describes its levels of, they actually called it insanity too. They called it insane. And actually, I do believe that if you drink too much alcohol, I don't believe that you're insane, but it takes you over. You know, it takes your body, mind, and spirit over. And I think back then, Rush and all the people that were involved with the temperance movement actually knew how dangerous alcohol was to society, you know. So the temperance movement, the prohibition, and the different types of movements against drinking alcohol, you know. And I'll tell you the truth, I really believe that alcohol industry, the pharmaceutical industry, and the tobacco industry has never been held accountable for the devastating consequences that alcohol, pharmaceutical products, and tobacco has on society. You know, it's actually, society's been giving them a pass for years and years and years. And I'm really against that. I'm against the alcohol, pharmaceutical, tobacco industry that lies, manipulates, makes alcohol like it's cool and pleasurable. Now they're constantly marketing to the young, to the children, to the women, constantly. And no one, Rush they actually had it together back then. They were more together back then. They knew how bad alcohol had this consequence, this devastating consequence on society. They knew way back then how bad it was. okay, for society. But it got instead of getting better, it got worse because they never promote the truth about alcohol and pharmaceutical drugs and tobacco. Go see on TV and tell me where they tell you the ills, the effects of alcohol on society. You see any commercials telling you about alcohol, the alcohol industry? No, you won't. I got off on that, Joe. I'm sorry, but they call it a diagnose yourself. It's a self-diagnosis of disease. So I don't believe it's a disease in itself. I don't like the word alcoholic, and I don't consider myself that I have alcoholism today. But when you keep on reading, I'm going to get back to you, Joe. What do you have to say on that?
I am wondering how the definition of the word disease has changed since Rush's time to our time. I don't know the answer. I'm gonna have to look it up, but it just makes me think about the definition of the word of disease, because you could throw anything into the category of a disease as long as you make the definition of the word appropriate.
Exactly. Here's papers on it. There's like probably 38 papers from the beginning of time on alcoholism, the word alcohol, where addiction came from, the disease. Here's something very interesting. Okay. Alcohol, let's see, the disease. Definition of addiction, back way back, Latin. The Latin comes from a Latin word, addict. Addict. It means to assign. Doesn't mean nothing about alcohol. It means to assign. Typically referred to the bound of slavery that lenders imposed upon delinquent debtors or victims on their convicted aggressors. Such individuals were mandated to be addicted to the service of the person to whom they owe restitution. The word was used to describe devotion to someone or something. That's that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm trying to help deprogram people, because actually you get addicted to Alcoholics Anonymous. Okay. Forget the addiction to alcohol. I'm not drinking. I don't use drugs. So I'm not addicted to alcohol or drugs. But I had to escape the addiction of Alcoholics Anonymous, okay, because it bound me to a slavery. And I talk about that in some of my podcasts, and I mention that in a lot of different things that I post up on Facebook about slavery and about the bondage of how the 12 steps and how the 12 traditions enslaved me. You know, I left Alcoholics Anonymous about 5.5 years ago. And I always thought I was going to stay in the program and help people kind of uncover and discover things while I was in the program. But it wasn't, I could never talk about anything outside. I was in there for 30 years and never heard anyone mention an alternative program. Hey, Bobby, why don't you try this? Nobody ever raised their hand and said, you know what, I was in a SMART meeting and I discovered this. You guys should check it out. Never heard of an alternative method. People say, Bobby, why are you doing this today? Well, I'm doing it because I don't want my grandchildren or the next generation to be bound or slaves to a society that they call them alcoholic and have this disease and they're insane and there's no cure for it. And the only cure is devotion to a program for life and recruit others for life. You know, I don't want anybody to be enslaved to that. People would say, you're hurting people. No, I'm not hurting people. People have a power of choice, and they could do whatever they want. Whatever I say, they don't have to listen to. They could shut me off. I believe that I'm doing this because I have a responsibility to do it, because of the time that I spent in this society and the knowledge that I have of how the hierarchy works and the pyramid structures designed. You know, but getting back to, I'm sorry, Joe. What do you got to say about that? I'm always jumping crazy.
Yeah, we said a couple episodes ago. I pointed out how it's hard for me to wrap my head around somebody going into AA and have their life totally like get sucked into AA, because I haven't seen it in the way that you have. You've been around the program for a lot longer than I have. So it's it's harder for me to wrap my head around somebody going in there and being like totally and completely brainwashed. And it's hard for me to understand that because I'm a person that thinks independently. So it's hard for me to see how that can happen so easily. But when you look at the things that take place, it's really not that hard to understand, considering when you go in there, they're constantly telling you not to think. I mean, that's a little bit of a red flag. Don't think. Your best thinking got you into these horrible situations. Don't think. Don't think. They're telling you not to think. And then they're telling you all this other stuff. So I'm just going to use that example because there's a bunch of them I just can't think of off the top of my head, but they tell you not to think. I mean, that's dangerous. For me, like I've said before, I get I know what I get out of meetings. Um, and it's interactions with other individuals in that room that are going through the same thing that I'm going through. But as far as the mentality to make you not think and um, deceive you with a program that tells you you can believe in whatever God you want, whatever higher power you want, and not mention ever that all this shit in the big book and the 12 steps came from the Oxford Group, which is a Christian organization. And then they're going to say the Lord's Prayer at the end of the meeting, which is a Christian prayer. I mean, the consistencies are all over the place. But I just completely forgot what I was talking about.
I know, I get like that. Isn't that crazy? I'm always like that. Okay, getting back to more about alcoholism, chapter 3. You know, we have to understand that this book, what is it, 164 pages? Okay, that's it. The rest is stories. In this chapter alone, there's 3 stories. They talk about the jaywalker. There's actually
Yeah.
4. They talk about Jim, and then the Fred, and then the guy with 25 years, and then they talk about the jaywalker. So the chapter's only like 3 pages, really. The rest is stories. You got 164 pages, written 80 something years ago. One doctor, Dr. Silkworth, you've heard of Dr. Silkworth. Dr. Silkworth told Bill, this is what he told him. He said, Bill, stick to talking about the illness as a disease and alcoholism. Stick with the disease concept, okay? Dr. Silkworth wanted him to always stick with that disease and the disease concept because it was an old thing. It's not like Bill and Bob came up with this alcoholic. It's 200, it's over 200. Bob came up with alcoholic, okay, or alcoholism or disease. They didn't come up with this shit. Who do you think came up with it? Well, the last podcast was the beginning to tell you exactly why it's, what it's all about. So here's Dr. Silkworth talking to us, 100 men and women. Now, this book was written over 86 years ago, and it's about 100 men and women. Now, you get that? I mean, 100. Me and you were going to be doing more statistical research than he did, okay? Because
Yeah,
we're doing it right now. We're doing it right now. We're going to do more research than he ever did. All right. So 100 people. I'm going to base all my shit, all my disease, and all my names, and all my labels, and give my will and my life over to the care of AA, and I'm going to recruit others for life. Because this book, 100 years ago, 80 something years ago, was written by 100 men and women, and one doctor, and a lot of priests, a lot of reverends, ministers, and priests. Okay.
yeah, I never thought about that. That's just 100 people, and yeah, I never thought about that. He's just based it off a small group of people, and that he thinks his research is solid, and he really his batting average wasn't that good with helping people. I mean, it really wasn't, right?
No, folks, throughout this book and the step books, if you really thread the needle, you'll see that it's a placebo effect, because everything goes back to you and your desire. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. They knew it. See, this Bill and Bob did not design this Carnegie shit. All these people were wealthy. The first 100 people were professional business people. The first 100 people, they were professional business people. They weren't the average Skid Row bum shit. No, they were professional. And who controls this whole thing, this whole disease medical field, are professionals, schools. And we'll get into that, we'll get into that next podcast if we don't do a different type of podcast before that, but we'll get into how the schools who controlled the schools, how the AMA was hijacked, what we talked about, who took that over. And even how later on in years, the WHO, World Health Organization, the World Health Organization, who do you think controls that? It's all power, money, prestige. That's where the top of the pyramid is, controlled by about 8 people. And they want to, I'm going to get some pictures on them. You think this thing is not organized? How can these two people organize a pyramid system that's so integrated, it's so complex? They say it's not organized. It is so well organized, it's pathetic. Okay. And it's controlled by the top. And they want you to believe that the pyramids looks like this, where the members control the destiny of Alcoholics Anonymous. Well, if you're not involved with the delegates, the conventions, the intergroups, the GSRs, and all the hierarchy that goes up the pyramid, because I'll show graphs of all the intricate pieces of the puzzle in another episode. But this chapter here, it just, all it's about is constantly feeding an indoctrination of alcoholism and alcoholic and come into Alcoholics Anonymous. And it says, Bill's thing was, there was only one way to do it. I actually buy Silkworth. Like if Silkworth would have came up to me today, or a doctor, and I went into a doctor's office and the doctor said, "Hey, Bobby, you know what? You're allergic to alcohol. You can't drink." I'd probably maybe buy that, because that's what Silkworth said way back then. He said, this phenomena, as we have suggested, may be the manifestation of an allergy, which differentiates certain people from other people. So that's all is limited to this class and never occurs in the average temperate drinker. Temperate, where to get temperate drinker? These allergic types can never safely use alcohol in any form. Allergic types. I might have bought, like if I went into the doctor's office and said, "Hey, Bob, you got, you're allergic to alcohol. You can't drink that shit." I might have said, "Oh shit, yeah." And maybe, see, in all these readings, all this book, no matter where you read, they only talk about alcohol and drinking, like all the different ways. Here it says, despite all we have, many of us are real alcoholics are not going to believe that we are in this class, because we tried many methods, right? Drinking beer alone, limited the number of drinks, never drinking alone, never drinking in the morning, drinking only at home, never having it in our house, always trying to control our drinking, right? Talk about that, right? And then they talk about the only cure is it's incurable. So you have to do it one day at a time. It's never cured. You have to go to meetings for the rest of your life. You have to help and give it away. And it's spiritual, which it isn't. This program is strictly religious. You have to give your will and your life over to care of God. And that's the way you're cured, right? But they never talk about changing your mindset, learning therapeutic methods, meditation, yoga, holistic practices, to retrain your thinking. And who knows? They say, now, I believe in abstinence, and Joey does too. But there's a lot. I'm going to be doing a podcast, and Joey can help me with this, to see how many people actually were declared alcoholics and had this disease of alcoholism, and then didn't buy into it, but they were in Alcoholics Anonymous for years, or they believed the disease for years and years, and then all of a sudden they changed their thinking because they're retraining their thinking through whatever, meditation, therapy, different types of alternative methods. And then they found out that they can moderately drink, because there's people on the sites that I belong to say they can do that. Okay. And I'm not saying they can't, but I want to hear them in person. I want to hear their testimony. I want to do research. I don't just buy the shit that they can do it. I want to hear the research. Where you in? What was your history? And how did you come to the mindset that you can drink again? And how do you maintain that moderation? Because here's something about moderation. What is your definition of moderation? Okay. How do you define moderate drinking? Because if you really look at the word alcoholic pertaining to alcohol, everybody that drinks is alcoholic.
Yeah.
Everybody that drinks is alcoholic. Okay. And if you want to use the word ism, which is a movement, it's an alcohol movement. Like I said before, Alcoholics Anonymous is Rockefeller's temperance movement. Okay. And we'll get into the traditions, because if Joey wants to continue these podcasts, I want to do the traditions 1 to 12 and show you exactly how they silence the society. In the traditions, do not talk about reform, alcohol reform. Alcoholics Anonymous is nothing but a reformed movement. it's nothing but the temperance pro following prohibition. Prohibition was about not legalizing alcohol, but Alcoholics Anonymous is about silencing the members and reforming them. So we're not allowed to talk about reform, alcohol reform, but the whole movement's nothing but alcohol reform. Alcoholism, alcohol disease, and they say, oh, don't members don't go outside that box and talk about controversy, you know. But look, subscribe down below to this channel, Deprogramming Podcast, because I'll tell you what, pause it if you like. If it's going on too long, Joey always says it, press the pause button. Don't listen to it right now. Joey's going to probably put this on maybe one of the podcasts where you can just listen to it audio. You don't have to watch us, but pause it, but subscribe to it, because we're talking about things that they will never talk about in any meeting anywhere in the world, anywhere in the whole world. Okay. So we're giving you this information and we're not going to stop. I'm going to keep on talking about it. Back to you, Joey. Sorry, I went on again.
Yeah, no problem. That's right. Yeah, we're closing in on an hour already. It's like time travel when I'm talking to you, Bobby. See, the hour goes by so quick. But yeah, you saying talking about moderation. You got to consider whose definition of moderation we're referring to. I mean, if I could maintain, a 12 pack a night, that would be moderation for me. I would be able to, you know, I would have been able, that was moderate. A 12 pack a night is moderation for me. I wouldn't have been able to get in, I wouldn't have, there wouldn't have been so many consequences if I could just drink a 12 pack a night. But I had to keep, once that 12 pack was gone, I drank 9 beers. Now I got 3 left. Oh boy. Don't worry, I still got 3 left. Oh, now I got 2 beers left. I'll be good. I still got 2 more beers left. Oh shit, I got 1 more beer left. Well, let me just pound this beer and I'll be good. I've already had 12 beers. Never fucking worked. Always needed more. So why did I need more? So now I learned after a few times of just, getting a 12 pack, thinking that, hey, Joe, why don't you just get a 12 pack? That's probably more than enough for the night. Okay, I listen to myself. I get a 12 pack. 12 pack's gone. Fuck. I need more. So the next time I go, I get more. And then I get more. And then I start getting the hard liquor. And then it's never enough. So why is it that some people can have a 6-pack on a Friday night? Why can't I just have a 12 pack on a Saturday night? Why do I feel the need to keep on drinking? Why do I get so uncomfortable when I stop the process of getting inebriated? Is that a disease? Is that a mental illness? Is that chemicals in my brain? Is that the reaction of an addicted brain of alcohol abuse over time? I don't know. But I do know when people call alcoholism a disease, I don't know who was the first person that received the information that, like gospel, that alcoholism was a disease. I think that they felt completely relieved because, oh no, that now there's a reason for why they do the things they do, and it removed accountability, and it made just the fact that they were told that it was a disease, it gave them some kind of relief. And then they just kept following the person that called it a disease. Okay, that now Now I have a reason. There's a reason for me acting the way I act and doing the things I do. And now I'm gonna okay, so this person called it a disease. I'm gonna keep I'm gonna keep doing what this guy says because it's not my fault. It's it's the disease's fault, and I'm not in control over anything. It's not my fault. So that was just a little, I'm just riffing off everything that's going on in my head based on what we've been talking about. Because I don't fully understand that addicted feeling that goes on when you're drinking. Is that called something? Do we need to call it something? Does it come from trauma? Does it come from just an addicted brain that's been abused by the chemicals that you put into it? Or is it a disease? I don't know. I tend to think that it's the reaction of a brain that's been abused and that has developed a habit. I think it might be just as simple as that. These are just my opinions that could change tomorrow.
Okay, okay. You just said the word habit, right?
Yeah,
Watch, listen to this. You there? Okay. Historically, addiction became the contemporary term to describe what was previously known as a habit. That's that's what it, that's they didn't use the word addiction before addiction. They just called it a habit, or you're inebriated. Okay, so yeah, you're right. So I had a habit. Okay, I had a habit. I formed a habit. Now, if I formed a habit, let's talk about moderation for a second. Is it possible, let's say 5 years from now, after I'm educated, I have enough and all this other stuff, if I try to moderate, isn't it possible that I can create that habit back?
sure.
I mean, you have a habit once, can you have a habit again? I would say yeah. You know, I would say possibly you can create another habit. Here's here's the bottom. Here's they talk a lot about. There's a lot of people that commit suicide. Okay, you were talking about it, and you were mentioning it. Let me blame it on the disease. I don't have to be responsible for this, right? There's no cure. I'm hopeless. I'm insane. I'm an alcoholic. I have a disease called alcoholism. I'm screwed. I'm screwed. Okay. Here's here's back. Now remember, this is over 86. This is like 86 years ago, 85 years ago. What you say about is, in my opinion, correct. As these two men, he's describing the two stories. There is no doubt in my mind that they were 100% hopeless. Now, this is in the book. I mean, this shit is in this book. Okay. And you say, why do we have to help deprogram people from this shit? This is why, because you're not indoctrinated yet. Okay. But there's millions of people that are. Apart from divine help, that's it. That's all you get. You get divine help from God. If you don't get divine help from God, you're screwed. Okay, now you go into Alcoholics Anonymous. They tell you if you don't get divine help, if you don't believe in God, you're screwed. You're helpless, insane. You got this disease. Okay. Now, I have profound respect for the spiritual approach in such cases as yours. For most cases, there is virtually no other solution. Once more, the alcoholic at certain times has no effective mental defense against the first drink. Except in a few rare cases, neither he nor any other human being can provide such a defense. His defense must come from a higher power. I mean, this is in this book, okay? So if somebody says to me, Bobby, why are you doing this shit? Why don't you leave it alone, man? Why do you hate AA? You know, I don't like the deception of the whole pyramid structure, okay? So I'm going to keep on speaking out for people, not to hurt people, to free them, okay? To free people from this bullshit, this lies, and this indoctrination that goes on page after page after page, and it's repetition. It's constantly repeated over and over again. And in the stories, I believe what's lacking is education, really. It's the alternative methods. And, you know, I'm so thankful 37 years ago, there was nothing. There wasn't the internet. They called me an alcoholic. I bought into it. Okay. They said I had a disease. They said it was uncurable. They said it was progressive. Okay. I had to do this thing for life. And today, that's not true today. There's a lot of alternatives, a lot of different methods. You know. I mean, me, I choose abstinence. Why do I choose abstinence? Number one, I could create another habit. The real reason is I'm cheap. Who in the hell, you think I want to spend $7 for a friggin' beer? For what reason? I'll drink a bottle of water for $1. Okay. Do you think if I was moderately drinking, I couldn't drink 2 or 3 drinks, get in a car and get a DUI just because I'm moderate? I'm a moderate drinker. I can't get a DUI? Bullshit. Do you think that I couldn't have a couple of drinks and come home and have a disturbance with my wife or my grandkids? Do you think when you put alcohol in your mouth, the hell happens? You know, there's people that write books and say that alcohol doesn't have an effect. There's no power in alcohol. Alcohol, look, when was the last time you heard that alcohol causes cancer? Did you ever see it on TV?
No.
Look it up. Alcohol is a carcinogen. It's a carcinogen, okay? It's a drug. Alcohol is a, did you ever hear of fatal syndrome? Go look it up for when you're drinking and you're pregnant. See what happens to the children, okay? Fetal alcohol syndrome, look it up, okay? People, not Joey, but people, look it up. Feds is called, or look at the damage that it's doing to society. Look how much money, DUIs, the court system, the government's in on. The government loves it. They love it. They send you to Alcoholics Anonymous, and the psychiatrists, the therapists, the people that are writing books. There's like there's 20 different 12-step programs, and there's probably 20 different anonymous groups, 12-step anonymous groups. They're all writing books. There's money. It's a multi-billion-dollar corporation industry. The alcohol industry is a multi-billion-dollar money-making scam. It's a money-making scam. I'm telling you. Go spend $60,000 and you're already not drinking when you went in. Then you don't drink when you're in there. And then they send you, after you paid $60,000, they send you to Alcoholics Anonymous. They say it's free, but they want your body, mind, and spirit. They want to hijack that. And then you're still not drinking when you go in there. And then they take the credit, like they're doing it for you, when actually you're doing it because it's a placebo effect, because it comes from you and only you. Go to a rehab or a retreat, 5,000 a week. Yeah, you're going to get cured. You're going to come out and find out it's always been you. Okay, you could spend money. Do what Joey does. He goes online and buys books for $2-3. I go into the bookstores the Save-Ons and all these thrift stops and go get my books for $1. You know, online meetings, free. Uh, Smart Recovery. It's a good place to go. It's cheap, but it's still a hierarchy. You know, but it's free. You don't have to pay. You could put $1 in, but they're not going to tell you your disease. They're not going to call you an alcoholic or names or say you're incurable because they believe in an exit strategy. Smart Recovery believes in an exit strategy. You're going to learn and you're going to exit. They believe in abstinence, but they're learning more about see everybody goes to wherever the money goes. Everything's into MAT now, medication assisted therapy. Medication assisted therapy, MAT, MAT. Okay, because like Rockefeller, he knew that the pharmaceutical. What do you think they started? NA. It's to keep all the alcoholics and drug addicts quiet and silent. Okay, where do they go? The pharmaceutical industry, medication, psychiatrists, psychologists, uh, the doctors. Where do they send you? They send you to Alcoholics Anonymous. The courts, where do they send you? Alcoholics Anonymous. Alcoholics Anonymous. They're all connected. Back to you, Joe.
Yeah, if you're spending like 30 to 40% of your paycheck on alcohol, I mean, whether you want to say you're an alcoholic or not, or whether you think you should stop drinking or not, if you're spending that much on alcohol like I was, you're a slave to alcohol. Whether you think uh, the industry has a right to advertise the way they want to or not, you're still a slave to it. And sometimes that alone can get me through the day if I'm having like a bad moment or something like that. Not through the day, just through the moment. I never have to get I never have to get through the day anymore. I just have to sometimes get through a moment that I get sidetracked. But I trained my brain to think differently. And I'm not a slave to alcohol. I spend my money on other things. I spend my money talk about medically assisted therapy, but I mean, or harm reduction. I eat Reese's Pieces peanut butter cups now. It's a lot
There we go.
cheaper. All right. Listen, that's not good for you either. That sugar is probably going to kill me too, but I'm working on it. All right. I'm working. So pretty soon, I'm going to be on a full raw foods diet. Maybe, maybe next month. I don't know. But listen, I'm working on it. Okay. I tell you what's free. The Alcoholics Anonymous Deprogramming podcast is free. Well, maybe you have to, unless you have to pay for YouTube. I really don't know. But we're not asking you for money. We're not asking you to Venmo us nothing. We're not asking you to send us a couple bucks so we can get a cup of coffee. Send us a couple bucks so we can get better microphones and headphones. No, we're not trying to get any money from you. We're just trying to share our experience and knowledge. And I'm a guy who is sober, who's going to who will be going back to AA eventually, but is an independent thinker. Bobby doesn't go to AA anymore. He's an independent thinker. Um, we're sharing with you what we know, and I'm sober today. I'm going to be sober tonight, and this is my program. And I hope you guys subscribe to the Alcoholics Anonymous Deprogramming podcast and listen to my podcast, Brutally Sober. You can find it on Spotify, Anchor, Apple, iTunes, all those things. So we're about an hour or so. I tell you what, man, this is like time travel every time I talk to you, Bobby. See?
Yeah, me too. Yeah, let me just give a shout out to everybody that look. I don't care if you're moderating, if you if you're drinking now, if you're using, if you're watching this podcast, if you want to change, if you want to change, I can do it. Joey can do it. You can do it. This podcast, I believe, is beyond recovery. We're not we're not recovering from alcohol and drugs right now. We're done. We don't drink or drug. Okay, we're recovering from a lot of other things. Last week I just started back to the gym. This this pandemic was very bad. People died, and I'm not invalidating that, but a lot of great things happened back to in-person meetings, and they can't wait. Actually, people are really into these online meetings now. There's so many different places you can go and information you can get. And I believe go beyond this addiction recovery thing. Go beyond it. Uh, go to the gym. Uh, Go do some meditation. Go back to the earth. Go back to Mother Earth. Go out into the woods. Go hiking. Do some nature stuff. Do some activity. You want to do yoga. Get involved with helping people in your way. It doesn't. Somebody else doesn't have to tell you what your purpose in life is anymore. You create it. You make it. We're going beyond this addiction thing. Okay. And when we talk about recovery, we talk about if we can do it, you can do it. Today, I'm in recovery from what I believe about myself, the world, the society, the universe. I'm going beyond this addiction trap. And I call it addiction trap today because we can get in this trap of only talking about addiction all the time. The reason why we're doing it is we're trying to help people to go further, get outside of the box, okay, and step outside and do some yard work and go into the gardens and take walks and be kind to your wife and maybe read some different spiritual books. I personally believe in spirituality. I can't define it for you. And if I say the word spirituality, you'll label me somehow. You'll say, "Oh, Bobby's spiritual." Yeah, sure. Uh, I don't even like to use the word spiritual, but that's the only word I have, right now. Uh, People will say you're agnostic, you're atheist, you're an anarchist. These labels can separate us. I'm for freedom, labels. You know, I'm for freedom. You know, And there's people that are going to try to say how bad I am and you hate AA and you're going to hurt people. Well, you're not going to silence me, okay? Because I have an obligation and a freedom to speak my mind and to speak my truth, what I feel. It's an expression of of my thought, and it's an expression of words that I can express verbally. And you're not going to take that from me. So anybody that thinks they're going to shut me up and message me with little comments about that, I don't really take it personal because I don't respond back. If you respond that, I really don't respond back with like-minded type criticism. I don't criticize people back, but you're not going to silence me because I'm going to keep on speaking out on these podcasts. And hopefully, Joey's going to join me and continue doing these podcasts. And and hopefully, we're going to help people. You know, I'm not here to hurt people. I'm here to help people. So, what do you think, Joe?
Well, if you can't get enough of the Alcoholics Anonymous Deprogramming podcast once a week, you just break it down to 15 minutes a day, and you can listen to us all week long. We'll be back tomorrow. No, not tomorrow. Next Saturday. Tune in then, and don't forget to subscribe. And hope everyone has a great weekend. And I'll be sober. And next time you see me, I won't be hungover.
Take care.